Welcome back to the Crypto's Key conversation. In this one, I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible. We're going to be looking at this video that the Digital Asset Investor had put up in regards of Greg Kidd and Global ID having an interview, kind of giving their take on this whole Ripple versus SEC and how the lawsuit was laid out and how it really doesn't make any sense in regards of the comparison to other digital assets that aren't under the scrutiny or microscope by the SEC. We're also going to be taking a look at some updates in regards of Cardano surpassing their wallet addresses, activations. We're going to be looking at, now we have two countries that have declared Bitcoin legal tender. Obviously, it's been a talk of the town. Central African Republic adopts Bitcoin as legal tender. And we're going to be taking a look at some more metrics here real quick from like Will and so on to see kind of what Bitcoin and crypto status has been in regards of adoption. So coming over here to CoinGecko, we're currently sitting at a $1.89 trillion market cap, currently up 2.1%. So obviously we've seen, some price action here. We got a positive 2.2% on Bitcoin. So if we come over here and just type in the 7-day here, just to take a look at it, I mean, as you can see, we came all the way down here to 38,000. So from, the low to mid 40s. So obviously we had some volatility, and it's expected with what's going on. Obviously we have Jerome Powell and the Fed getting ready to come out and raise interest rate hikes. I guess 50 basis points it's a real consideration, and it's on the table on top of other things that's going on in regards of negative narratives or just narratives in general that can be affecting the markets. If we come over here to the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, we're currently sitting at 21. So just like I said yesterday, I was expecting it to come down more because there was a lot of uncertainty and fear in the market that was going on. So we went from being at a 27 in the fear range going back down to 21 in the extreme fear range. And we're no strangers to this area. This kind of been our home, like we've been saying in all our videos. We've been here for a while. So just quickly jumping in here, I wanted to cover this video. It's 7 minutes 26 seconds, but I think it's highly important to hear Greg Kidd's position and how he kind of views things and how he lays things out. So let's take a listen now.
As I'm sure a lot of you already know, right before the Christmas holiday, the SEC launched its lawsuit against Ripple, essentially saying that XRP was a security and Ripple had been involved in selling unregistered securities for the past 8 years. Greg, I know you have some very strong opinions on this. Like, why don't we start with your hot take?
Well, first off, I'm an ex-regulator myself. I work for the Federal Reserve at the Board of Governors in the payments group. And just my observation is, and again, I'm not a regulator now, but that just wasn't the way we did things at the Fed. You didn't launch litigation on the last day before the commissioner of your organization resigned, especially going into like a new administration. I mean, Ripple's been around for 8 years. There's been a long time to set clear rules, and then you could have arguments or discussions over what behaviors need to change to meet the rules. But to actually just file an enforcement action out of the blue on the day that you resign, so you're not around to actually take the heat for the consequences of what you've done, and then you just sail off into the holidays and a new administration. That's kind of an unprecedented situation. The question is, what was the reason after 8 years that required an urgent enforcement action just on the last day of under a particular leadership? And so this is a highly unusual situation, just to start with, in terms of the conduct of the SEC, independent of the substantive issues of the case. So it does have me scratching my head as to why this timing, why in this manner, and then we can just climb down into the specifics of the actual case, what's known as the Howey test, which is the test for whether something is a security or is a currency. And really, from my point of view, it comes down to whether an organization like the SEC thinks that people out there can't tell the difference between investing in a gold mine, which has its own stock, which truly is a security, versus gold, which is pretty clearly not a security. And so in the case of Ripple, as you said, Ripple was a company that did raise money from venture capital. It does have investors. I'm one of those investors. I know the difference between when I'm investing in a company versus when I'm investing in something that might have been associated with that company, but is not an investment contract of that company. And that's XRP, which I'm also a holder of. And the SEC has taken the point of view that people don't know the difference, and it is suing to recover 1.3 billion on behalf of those investors, and in the process is destroying tens of billions of dollars of value for those investors. And it does remind me of a quote from Ronald Reagan, who said the scariest words in the English language is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So when somebody comes to help me as an investor, which is the primary mission of the SEC, and helps me by destroying, 10 times the amount of value that they're quibbling over, you got to scratch your head, because that just doesn't really make sense from a public policy point of view. It doesn't make sense from a financial point of view. And so it really, begs the question. So that's,
Well, I mean, speaking of that question, what do you think the goal of the SEC was, right? Because generally speaking, they're there to make sure regulations are followed. They're there to make sure the rules are followed. And ultimately, their responsibility is to protect the consumer. So what do you think they were trying to get out of this particular case, especially in the context of, like you said, dropping it right before the holidays and right before this administration is moving on?
Well, to me, this feels like a turf battle. Again, I come from the U.S. regulatory industry, and there's always a question of, like, what does the Fed do versus the OCC versus state regulators? And in this case, the question is, who gets to be the boss of cryptocurrency? Is it FinCEN? Is it the IRS? Is it like some other federal regulator? Or in this case, the SEC is saying, like we want to be the boss of crypto. Yet we don't want to lay out clear rules and whatnot. But this clearly is a chance for them to say, we get to have a big say about how crypto works. Yet at the same time, we don't have the responsibility for putting out a clear set of rules, even though it's been 8 years. And they could clarify, why is Ripple, in their mind, an investment contract, but Ethereum or Bitcoin is not, and also give guidance to all the other companies that are arguably in the same position as Ripple. It could be a Filecoin or a Stellar, Tether, Brave. I mean, those are all companies where there was a stock by the founding company, and then tokens have been issued, and those tokens have been sold to members of the public, and are held broadly, not just by accredited investors. And so, the ironic thing here is, if you read what the mission is of the SEC, it's to protect investors, to maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. If you go through each of those 5 things, protecting investors, is this fair? Is this orderly? Is this efficient? Does this promote capital formation? And in every one of those checkboxes, this action achieves exactly the opposite outcome. Investors have been harmed. This certainly isn't fair, because you can't understand why Ripple and not Tether, or not like Stellar, not like any of those other lists, or Bitcoin or Ether. You're not making clear what the distinctions are. It is certainly not efficient or orderly. I mean, there's been chaos in the marketplaces. Folks don't know whether to list or delist. There's problems with liquidities. Loans are being called. I mean, if you wanted to create a situation that was a parallel to having Lehman Brothers go down without clear and orderly wind down, I can't think how you could create more chaos in the marketplaces than just to file an enforcement action with no context, on the last day of, the commissioner's leadership of the SEC.
I mean, didn't he just literally break it down? Everything that we've been preaching and yelling throughout Twitter and trying to get, our voices heard in regards of, Johnny Deaton, the class action lawsuit, and all the community members that's really trying to get, the truth and the facts out there. But didn't he just lay it out and hit every point on the head? Quite honestly, you drop this on not just Ripple, the company, you drop this on thousands and thousands of XRP and Ripple investors that you're set out to protect. And you did it days before Christmas in 2020, one of the most rough years, that we've experienced in my generation, at least. You drop that as you're walking out the door outside of your term. And there's really no regulatory clarity and distinction between the rest of the digital assets. There's no certainty, which is affecting not only investors, not only these projects, but these exchanges and platforms are trying to do the right thing and make sure that they are following the laws, most of them, at least the big ones. But it's like he hit every point on the head, and it's so true. So I definitely had to play that. So let's move on here, though. Stefan Huber had put up this meme. He says, I think I found a new all-time favorite meme. So this is Brad Garlinghouse reacting to one of the reporters from Bloomberg pretty much stating that, our analysts or our lawyers are saying, that they feel the SEC will win. And this was his reaction, like, oh, okay. And he goes, the SEC will win. XRP will go to zero. Ethereum fees are good. Joseph Lubin is an honest businessman. And then his reaction, that is genius. I want to thank Stefan Huber for putting that up. I actually put a quote retweet on that as well. Coming over here, Watcher Guru says, just in, Cardano has surpassed 3.65 million addresses, which is absolutely massive. Obviously, Cardano and Charles Hoskinson and his team are really trying to do something massive over there in regards of their project and their use case and their utility with the ADA token. So congrats to, I hold Cardano, to the rest of the Cardano holders. And, more power to Charles Hoskinson and the rest of his team. Coming over here, this says 2 countries have now declared Bitcoin legal tender. So obviously we have El Salvador, and then we have the Central African Republic right here. So if we come over here, this is from CoinDesk. It says Central African Republic adopts Bitcoin as legal tender. A statement from the president's office on Wednesday confirms the passage and signing of the necessary legislation. So as they say here, it says we have only 193 left to go. So just the domino tiles have already started falling. So just a matter of when, not if, this thing really starts to really take off. I like this tweet here from Dennis Porter. Says World Economic Forum just posted this chart on their website. Bitcoin uses less energy than the tumble dryer. So I haven't verified this myself, but I wanted to put this up so you can verify it yourself. Here it says energy consumption of Bitcoin mining versus other innovations. So if you come over here, we have Bitcoin at 62, domestic tumble dryers 108, and so on. You can take a look at the rest of everything else, which is kind of interesting because this whole ESG FUD and Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin and proof of work. Yeah, we that are educated within the space, especially XRP, Ripple holders and investors, like we understand that the distinction between, we don't necessarily have to use a proof of work model to accomplish what this space is trying to accomplish. There's other assets out there that do things a lot more faster, a lot more efficiently in regards of the whole environment, saving the environment and stuff. So, but this is quite interesting to see, and it kind of ties into what I have right here as well. I'm going to pull this one over here real quick. So this is from Will Clemente. He says, a little leak from Bitcoin user adoption report our team is working on. We are so early. Sometimes it's easy to let short-term volatility distract you from the bigger picture. So take a look at this. This is crazy to look at, and it's quite overwhelming. So if you really look at this, obviously this is a long time frame here, but it's like if we're genuinely here, whether you started investing recently, you've been holding since 2017, or the earlier years of Bitcoin in the crypto space, it doesn't matter. Like if you really look at this, and we look at 5 years, decades, looking at decades out, depending on how old you are, obviously is going to influence a different response. But me being in my 30s. This is very reassuring, and it shows like, hey, the writing's on the wall, and all I have to do is keep accumulating, getting solid projects, and hold them because we are so early. This is super inviting and positive, and quite motivating. So I wanted to end on this one here. It says, official, Brazil has approved the Bitcoin law to regulate crypto in the country. So it's happening. The writing's on the wall. Bitcoin, crypto, digital assets, and this entire space is here to stay. All the sectors within it, obviously, NFT, metaverse, and DeFi, and so on. People are seeing, the value and worth within this space, and they're seeing what, how it can change lives, how it can make, things that we do in our everyday life more efficient and in every way. So obviously, us being here, this is a huge win, and I'm so glad that I'm blessed enough to be in a position to invest in this space, because it's just a matter of when, not if, this space completely explodes. We're currently sitting at a $1.89 trillion market cap. There's other, spaces, I guess you could say spaces, or other, like you have the regular stock market and so on. You have the housing market. These have massive market caps, or they have a lot of capital within those markets. But now we are so early and we are so infant in relation to all the other stuff. It's just a matter of when this thing pops off, not if. With all that being said, stay strong out there. Be safe.